would have just recorded what I said I would do, because I don't even know what I do, but yeah. All right. So one other thing about it, the part of the idea of it is that as we're going through this process, you're encouraging your brain to go into a theta state, which is a more receptive and sort of hypnagogic sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And one of the ways to assist that is with your eyes closed, to move your eyes as if you're trying to look out the top of your head. Mm. There's something about that triggers the theta state. And so you can, yeah. All right.
Sorry, I'm just turning my phone ringer off. Why it rings when I want to turn it off, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. You could probably want to do that too. I'm just going to, hopefully nobody's calling me.
Okay. Now it should be off. Well, that wasn't a very quiet way to make it quiet. Sorry, but now I know.
Yeah, cool.
On track.
Okay, so settle into your seat. Take a nice, slow, easy breath. And imagine that there's a column of light that runs through your body, down through your root chakra into the earth. You can imagine this energy of yours wrapping around all the metals and the elements and all the energy and strength of the earth, like tree roots. And draw that up with you into this column of light, up through your body. And as you reach your heart, just take a moment and just smile at your heart, at your good heart. And then continue with this beam of light, following the beam of light, up as going out the top of your head. And while you're doing that, turn your eyes also closed, but turn them up as if you're watching your awareness follow this beam of light out the top of your head as it just continues on through the building you're in and through the sky and past the planets and the solar system and the galaxies, all the way out to the very edge of space where the source of all it is began. And then just follow along with me as I kind of call in what we want to draw in for ourselves, and you could substitute words, as needed. I don't know how that I am in full alignment with my higher self, and I am confident and comfortable in the work that I do and the presentations that I make for people. I don't know how I'm in the right place with the right mindset at the right time to make connections that further my work and my growth and the work and the growth of the people around me. I only know that it is so now, and I'm fulfilled. Now, staying up in that place, and imagine that these commands are coming down, and that the full capacity of the universe, all the possibilities, the quantum quarks, and the infinite possibilities are available to you now, and they are raining down, coming down. They're going to come down with you. And even you could be calling on your ancestors or people who've come before that you don't even know, but who have really accomplished these sort of things, who have embodied this way of being. And you can draw that in and then come down through your column of light, bring your awareness back down into your body. And all this new information for your mind and your spirit, and especially for your DNA, is now coming down and percolating throughout your body and your energetic sphere. And while that's happening, you can imagine that your DNA is actually unwinding its strands and releasing any old patterns and habits, any learned programming, anything that's in your way that doesn't allow you to be your greatest, most flexible, beautiful self. And that can just all fall away and fall out, leaving the blueprint of your DNA as it was originally. And now rewinding with this new information and these new possibilities, and rewinding these new resources right into your very genetic code. And simply sit with that. You can see something. Imagine what that might feel like. And before you completely disconnect from your galaxy beam, you can ask for something, some wisdom, some item in your mind to be, some gift to be given to you, something beyond all comprehension, and see if there's something else that the universe, your ancestors have that they would like to offer you. And just receive that. And then as you're ready, coming back fully into your body, into this moment, into the room that you're in. And know that you have changed reality. The universe will vibrate differently with you because you are now different.
He's up on his moonbeam. Galactic Command Center to Steve. Galactic Command Center to Steve.
Coming in.
Sorry, that was actually my timer going off to tell me that it's the regular time to get ready for our regular meeting. I forgot about that one. Talk about being efficient. I'm there.
There you go. Right on.
Right.
But I like that, Misha. I tell you, I really started to feel it viscerally when you talked about the eyes looking up through your head. I felt myself doing that. That was really helpful. And then the DNA unwinding, I was like, oh, I never heard that before. I really felt like the loosening of that. And for, my rational mind was like, DNA unwinding? What is that even? You can't, don't worry about it.
Yeah, right. And the thing is, it's true. I mean, our DNA responds to, what we're saying and thinking. It actually talks to other people's DNA. I mean, petri dishes and stuff, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So that was cool. And I had the thought that when you said genetically or something about that word, that means to generate. It doesn't just mean to reproduce children. That's like our manifestation, everything too. And so yeah, that was really good. And then at the end when you said like, just imagine that you had something beyond even what you could imagine, I thought, well, what if beyond just healing and teaching people Reiki, I had the power to spark other people, and then they had the power to spark other people with the strength that Usui Sensei did when he first downloaded Reiki. I was just reading a book of research on Reiki of someone who's done really in-depth research and has the best word on it. And supposedly the legend is that Mikao Usui would work on 5 people at a time, one with each hand, one with each foot, and one with his eyes, giving them all Reiki at the same time when this horrible earthquake happened in Tokyo in 1923. And Reiki was new. And he got the download and he started training people. And then, so anyway, that I thought, well, what if not only like I know I help people. People feel better. That's great.
Mhm.
But what if I could just like spark someone to like, wow, you know, just to
Right.
extent. I mean, I don't know if it's gotten diluted through the generations or, you know, he got the major. I mean, what we do is still amazing.
Hmm.
You know, just being able
Right.
to hold safe space for someone can be totally life changing. But anyway, that was what came to my mind. It's like, am I thinking small again? I don't know.
Right.
Miracle? Why
Yeah.
not?
So like all of that you were just saying, if I were going to do another one command with you, like
Hmm.
that's what we would sort of command for, you know, like I don't know how I'm like totally dialed in that I'm getting, you know, the fermented and aged and, you know, empowered version, whatever.
I like that.
So, and you know, to use your words as much as I can and bring stuff in as a download, like,
Hmm.
and then the thing about receiving something that's beyond what you can imagine is the
Mhm.
opportunity to try not to imagine anything, because you just imagine that, which is great. It's awesome, but still that's only as big as your mind could go, and it could hardly even go that far, you know. But to have, and what I should have done is when we were still like up there was to say, you know, somebody's got something, like receive this gift, you know, so you're really like in that kind of state and just see what shows up, you know. And it could be a fork, I mean, it could be, you know, a light bulb, it could be the sentence that's going to change your life, you know, whatever. I mean, even those, obviously I can conceive of that, so,
Mhm.
you know, but just to really be out there in the quantum soup.
Hmm. Quantum soup. Mhm.
Good
So
stuff.
Hmm.
So what, um, so what came up for me was I had a paradigm shift, if you will. Don, you've heard me talk kind of endlessly about the pyramid of prosperity.
Oh, it's great. It's great. It's developing. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it's developing more. Um, and what I realized was, so there's the four triangles, the four faces of the pyramid. What I realized, I was trying to like figure out, so what is the order for them, right? Um, and this actually comes back to your meditation, so don't think I'm like,
okay, I'm sitting with it.
but what I realize is like there's the creative side and there's the constructive side, and the creative side is like what's new and what's possible, and you know, it's more design oriented and future oriented, and then the constructive side is more process oriented and, you know, kind of how do you make things more efficient and effective and so forth. And then what I realized this week was there's a cultivating piece, like, so like who I am, self-oriented and like what my gifts are and so forth. And then the connective piece is more my, like the public, the interaction between other people, right? But it connects between the creative and the connective, because it's like, you know, our public, our relationships strengthen, kind of like just this mastermind connects and strengthens what we're doing, right? What our process is. For the last little while, I'm just not a connected person. I'm not a connector. Are we all frozen?
I kind of losing your connection.
Yeah.
Must be getting too high now.
I'm gonna move.
Your head isn't moving.
I'm gonna move to another room. See if that.
Okay.
Okay. The galactic beam was too much for the internet connection.
Yeah. So I heard you up until the connecting piece
Okay.
with the
Ironically.
right,
Yeah.
creative and the constructive and the personal that's where how you're connecting with people.
Okay. So you didn't miss much then.
No, I try not.
So so the piece that you did miss was, for the last little while I'm just not a connector. I'm not a person who, and this is like kind of my story in realizing that it's not necessarily true, that especially you know, back when I was in corporate, I did not feel like I was really a personable person, that people in general didn't like me or whatever, blah, blah, blah. And what I'm realizing is just, you know, how false of a story that is.
Mm-hmm.
And so that when you talked about connecting and that type of thing, that's what came up.
And that, I think, I don't know totally, but that really came in for you. You know, when I sort of let go and I'm going up there, it's like stuff's coming down. You know, I'm not necessarily pulling it. I mean, especially since we hadn't had a discussion about
Mm-hmm.
what you wanted to move or shift, you know. So that I mean, certainly was useful to me. But I feel like that was for you. That bit was for you.
Yeah.
Because that's just program that you got going on in your head that you're that way.
Right.
You can find all sorts of proof that you're not that way.
Right, exactly. It's like, you know, how do I shift my story, which is honestly the whole way that I got out of depression was, you know, learning how to retell my story in a way that was more empowering and so forth.
Yeah.
So it's a matter. And what I realized not terribly long ago was someone posted on Facebook something about, wouldn't it be great if you could turn off your negative internal dialogue? And mine used to be terrible. And but it's actually really kind of empowering nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really get much in the way of negative dialogue with relation to myself, but when in relation to my public, that's not the case. And so it's just, you know, reprogramming that, as you say.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But
So it was probably about 20, 25 minutes. That, you know.
was it really that long?
Maybe not. Maybe because it was maybe only like 15, the, you know, doing of it. And then, you know, we've been talking some. And so, you know, so $30 reasonable to have a little bit of life change. I mean, there's something I want to do that just people, it would be like people couldn't even say no to if they were interested.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you only do like that 15 minutes and but I can see you developing so that there's more structure to it, so that it's not just meditation, but like, I mean, it could be a 60-minute session or a 90-minute session or.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I learned how to do. I'm actually certified. I'm a certified one command practitioner. You know, so this is the sort of Cliff Note version, you know.
Yeah. And one thing I want to say about that though is what I was feeling while you were doing the meditation was it felt a little rushed. And so.
Okay.
And that may be because we're more experienced meditators. For someone else, that might feel like a long time. So that might be something that you ask people.
Yeah, good point.
Because you're helping also just create a meditation space. And for someone who's never had a prayer practice or anything like that, like 5 minutes, they might think it's going to seem like a long time. And I've had people come to my Wednesday morning meditation group and like, oh, I never did this before. And they always say, oh my God, a half an hour went by. I can't believe it. So Steve, like you're saying, the story we tell ourselves, because it's what we've lived and we're used to, and the past is all we know until we open our minds to possibilities. Someone might feel like it's going to be a long time. But so maybe that's part of your like intake. Right? So you have a meditation practice, or does 5 minutes seem like a long time to be quiet? You know, the leader of my pastoral care group hates to be quiet and sit still. I'm like, I don't get what this whole clergy thing is about. Like, someone led us in a 10-minute silent meditation once, and he almost like, he's like, oh God, thank God that's over, kind of like. It was sort of funny. So that's one way that you can help people, just by holding space to validate their choice.
Right.
You'd like to have 10 minutes of silent meditation, or whatever.
Yeah, and I was actually trying to keep it a little bit shorter, quicker, because you know, there's other stuff and people to do in the group, and I'm a little rusty when I'm doing them more. I'm like smooth, like the words are just flowing out, you know, whatever. But it's
like I've heard you on your Tuesday night thing, and it was great. It was really enjoyable. The other thing is you can give people homework. So I mean, it's just, there's like more and more and more layers of value for what you're offering. So if people can interactively help create their session, which is a lot of value, because giving people permission that it's okay and they have the power to make those choices is huge. And I love how it's, I don't know how, but so, and Steve, you were saying, how do I shift my story? You don't have to know how. In fact, I like how you emphasized, if you knew how, it wouldn't be the transformation you're looking for yet. So that's really valuable, like whether it's financially valuable and transformative for people, is they have not thought to say that to themselves before, that I don't have to know how, it's just going to happen.
Which is exactly what, I mean, again, I had no idea how to get out of depression. I mean, I saw a therapist for 4 years, and, you know, we talked about, you know, my story and all this kind of stuff, but we never got to, well, this is how you move out of depression. It was like, I mean, there's so much of the structure out there is based on, I mean, it was kind of like when I went and saw a doctor about my heart. It's like, well, the empirical evidence says this. And I'm like, well, that's wonderful as far as that goes, but there's like a whole nother path that's available. And anyway, it's just, it's funny how we get so structured as to, I have to know the answer, you know, and for me, the creative piece is really about not knowing the answer and being okay with that.
Right, because you're tapping into some other part of you, or
I mean, it's playing around and just, you know, being willing to make mistakes or to see whatever happens, or whatever language you want to put with it.
Cool.
Well, that's the great value of what you offer. That's why, in a way, you know, you're beyond the academics, Misha. You're not like the authority with the answers, and being able to hold that space and have faith in someone to go beyond what they can conceive. That's a rare thing. I mean, to us, because we're intuitive and creative, it might seem a lot easier than, like, we've talked about the step-by-step things and how we throw them out the window. But so, you know, being able to do it in a natural, comfortable way and make people feel safe and validated, that's huge.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Good. Good for you.
So, Miche, you've probably seen a little bit. So the accounting side of me is coming out more and more. And so I'm like extending out the $25 or $30 per session.
Yeah.
Actually, in a group setting might work out okay as far as, like, you know, creating a decent income. But at
what was the beginning of that sentence?
So if you were to extend out if you were to create a group session where it's $25, $30 per person, you know, for that group setting, you know, that could be sustainable. If it was one-on-one, I don't know how you could honestly create a sustainable business based off those numbers.
Yeah, you know, I guess that would sort of be my version of like a discovery call. Like, if I'm discovering about you, you're discovering about me, you know. But good point. I mean, it could totally be done in a group. The woman who, like, invented this, her first, what she was teaching people was how to lead a group. And, you know, and it's where everybody sort of gets getting something. Yeah. So, hi, Nancy.
Hey.
Wow, you're even darker than I am. The lighting and the backlight.
Nancy, are you muted or are you frozen?
I don't see any movement. I'm going to have to go in a couple of minutes.
Are you going to Where's your appointment?
Where's your appointment? To be about an hour away.
Yeah.
Almost everything is about an hour away. So.
Well, it's great to see you, and you're looking so well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're like your regular self, basically.
Cool.
It's really great.
And you seem to have a lot more mobility than I expected you to have.
Yeah, and I'm gonna, you know, because I'm still not supposed to turn or move much, but what the surgeon explained is that where most of your rotation this way is in the occiput to the C1, and then C7 to your T1 is where, let's see, he said I'm not going to be able to do this too much. but I'm pretty much going to be able to do that. And
So you can rotate, but you can't like nod.
Yeah. Yeah. So, if I had to pick 4 vertebrae to fuse, I guess those were the best ones to pick. Hi, Nancy. Nice to see you.
Very nice to see you, Michelle.
Yeah. I just took them on a journey. And I would love at some point, if you could listen to the recording and give your feedback on that too.
Great.
Because I need to make money like now. So that's part of it, right? Somebody in one of the groups was like, okay, like promote yourself. I'm like, okay, but don't have anything like, set exactly, right? Unless I charge people for spoon bending, which Anyway, so this one command process is something I'm hoping to be able to just like put out there quick and get some people signing up for, and not have to like do a launch and build a thing and whatever.
Yeah.
So I think it's good. The one command name is catchy. That sounds very like quick and effective. And also because you're a certified practitioner, I mean, that really adds confidence for some people. Like this is part of a system. And I think it's a good place to be.
Yeah. Cool. It's a good point. Yeah. And what I like about it is that it's really easy to teach people to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And it's great to be led, and to have somebody feeding you the right words and this, taking you through it. But it's also like you could be sitting in your car at a traffic light and be like, I don't know how like I make it to my job on time and everybody's in a good mood. I only know it is so now, and that's like a really down and dirty kind of version of it.
Right.
Calling in possibilities.
Yeah. So. I could go like 40 minutes and find a traffic light to do that. But
maybe like a cow crossing.
Right. Turkeys in the road, a flock of wild turkeys.
Yep.
Or deer.
Just one flock of turkeys. You could
every day.
That's classic.
Goats the other day. Our neighbor's miniature goats were up, but anyway. But I could see it really evolving into a package thing too, because once someone does it, as you say, they can have homework and then they'll want to come back and check in with you. And so, to have a package option, like, I mean, it just seems like it's evolving as we talk about it.
Right. Yeah. And like it suddenly clicked, like, okay, and it totally fits with the spoon bending too, because basically that's what I'm telling people is like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. But, I'm going to be here. I'm going to feel the energy. I'm going to ask for it. And then I'm going to make it happen. So,
do you have a spoon bending package like right now? Or do you have
I just have I do the free webinar. And I've wanted to create something. I was thinking maybe I should create something like the free thing is just I'm telling you about it and I bend the spoon. Like a short thing. Right. And then you pay me to be in the like 1 hour class where I teach you how to do it and why you would be doing it in the first place and whatever. So.
Yeah. So I'll probably talk about this later, but one thing that I would like to suggest for like all of us is don't think about income. Think about what you're creating. I was really interested, and I'll do something about this at some point, but I watched Bill Gates on Ellen DeGeneres recently.
Is there a link for that?
Yeah, actually.
I'd like to see that.
But he talks about money so differently. I mean, it's he doesn't mention sales, and she's talking about him becoming being the youngest person to become a billionaire. He was a billionaire by the time he was 30, and I'm sure Mark Zuckerberg, totally beat him. But his focus was on what he did. It was about the process that he did. For him it was software. He didn't mention sales once or income once. It was about, and there's no way I can talk about this here, but his whole focus was on the balance sheet, was on creating lasting value.
Nice. And I would love to do that, but right now I would like to be able to contribute some money into my household.
Right.
Well, while creating value for others, But
it's more of an intention. I mean, you're doing the same thing.
Yeah, okay.
Your focus is on a different area. I mean, he still had sales. He had to have sales.
Right.
You know, there's no business without sales. But whereas everybody talks about sales being like the thing,
Yeah.
sales is not the thing. It is what you do that is the thing.
Right. Sales is like the consequence, a consequence.
It's I mean, it's a
yeah. I'm happy to be here. I'm going to try to keep my Tuesdays clear, at least, this time of day. And thank you. And I'll see you all soon, or see you online.
All right. Good luck with everything, Miche.
Thanks.
And
Take
happy
care.
travels to you.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. So, Dawn, I think you're leading today.
Right. Well, Misha did a meditation already, but I did have some quotes from this new book on Reiki that I got. I thought, well, go right back to the source. One of the things that the founder of Reiki, his name was Mikao Usui. It gets a little confusing because they put their last names first. And anyway, his title is Usui Sensei. But in one of the only interviews ever known to be, sorry, I turned that off. You saw me turn it off. What the heck?
So you know what I'm working on, Steve?
I don't. What are you working on?
That quilt that I found that I had lost.
Oh, okay.
So, it's my job to finish it before
Yeah.
next week. So
How's that going?
it's good. I get nervous because the women all there are quilters, sewers, like I'm not. I'm an artist. I do art quilts. I've gotten into that group, but they've been doing traditional quilting, so their sewing is impeccable. And I'm finishing the quilt. Well, the finished work has never been my, enjoyment.
Yeah, because it's more mundane, right? I mean, it's not really creative.
Yeah, it's absolutely mundane. And so one thing is, they've taught me how to do a binding where you use a separate piece of fabric and how to cut it. And well, I just use what's on the back. I'm folding it over and sewing it by hand to be the binding, because I'm like, I'd rather do it that way. And so, part of my brain is, they're going to see that that's just not, these corners aren't mitered corners. They don't match. I'm like, screw it.
Well, if they wanted someone else to do it, they would have asked someone else to do it. So.
Well, I want it. It's
right. But I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, you're you, and you're going to do it your way. So just.
That's it. And it's so that it goes. I donate it to the auction. Like, really?
Yeah. But we do that so much to ourselves. It's like everybody's going to expect me to do it this way, and I've got to do it this way, even though it totally doesn't work for us to do it that way.
No.
So, anyway. I mean, think about it. Last week, you were like, I don't know where it is. I'm just going to have to go without it. And
right.
So the fact that you've got it and you're finishing it is,
I was accepting that it, it just was lost. And then I found it folded into the fabric that I'm using to back it with. So I couldn't distinguish it from all the other fabric in this bin, except for the fact that I saw pins, and I was like, "Oh, I bet."
Oh, really?
That's what I did. Yep.
Huh. Wow. And when is this event?
Sunday.
Oh, wow. So you don't have much time.
Sunday. Oh, no, I don't have much time at all, especially I'm getting a massage tonight, and, Thursday night I'm going to a meeting because I'm getting my hair done Thursday morning. So I also have to have a sermon written by Sunday.
Mm. When you do a sermon, do you have it like written out word for word, or do you?
I do.
Wow.
Yeah. I do. I used to have, you know, I've been through different phases and different times of ministry where, you know, sometimes I did it just an outline and very informal, and then I've done it where it's, you know, 9 pages, double spaced, 20 minutes, you know, and I have it all written. And generally when I do something like this, it's been written. But this year they started the Quilting by the Bay conference on Sunday night. Normally it starts on Saturday, so the big sermon that I do is Sunday morning. And it's like 3 conferences, all, you know, 100 people staying at the beach. And,
Wow.
you know, sometimes like 50 or 60 people come to the sermon. So it's a big deal. Well, this year they're not starting the conferences until Sunday afternoon. So there is no Sunday morning service for the group at Ferry Beach, but the president, you know, the director of the conference center has put out to the beach community, not the conference center, but to the beach community, that there'll be a service there every Sunday at 9:30 in this outdoor chapel. So asked me, knowing that I'm local, would I come down and do the service? So I said yes, even though it might be 5 people. There's sometimes people from the community, and I'm, you know, so I'm, and then the music minister that's with me all week, because I do a chapel every morning, isn't coming in until Sunday afternoon. So I asked another minister that's a friend of mine if she would do the music. And she said yes. And then she informed me, she said, is it all right if I ask a group of friends to sing with me? I was like, as long as they know they might just be singing to ourselves or to each other, fine with me, the more the merrier. So she has like 4 or 5 people that are coming to sing with her, and they're practicing tomorrow, and they're going to send me maybe it's tonight. She said by tomorrow afternoon, she'd send me a list of the songs they'll be singing. So I'm like, all right.
So there's your audience. You're literally preaching to the choir.
Yeah, right.
Now you know you'll have 5 people.
I should put that in there. Literally preaching to the choir.
That's great.
Nice.
Sorry about that phone call. Steve, you saw me turn the ringer off, but it turned out to be someone I've been trying to get a hold of, and we really still couldn't like talk right now. But I had so many things I've been trying to ask her about. So that was a good little connection, but sorry about that.
That's okay. It looks kind of intense, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it's all kinds of stuff. Her and her, we need her husband to do some work on the house, and she has my cow, and I used to buy milk from her, but she's like a friend of hers, just, I don't know, there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on with her. So trying to hold space for her chaos, and at the same time get stuff accomplished. So. Anyway, do you want me to read the quote that I was
on? Yes.
So this was in 1922 or 23, 24, something like that. And he said, in times such as these, happiness is based upon cooperation of humankind and the longing for the progress of society. So I thought, boy, in times such as these, Japan in the 1920s, isn't that like trying to think of that culturally is really amazing. And even now, we still really need that message. Happiness is based upon cooperation of humankind and the longing for the progress of society. Especially now when there's all this like take America back to the golden age that never happened kind of nonsense you hear about, you know?
Make America great again.
Yeah, like go backwards to.
Your idea of great is not my idea of great, but.
No. Why don't we go forward? You know? So he said, that is why I will never allow anyone to own it, to own Reiki. This gift has been given to everybody. Anyone has the potential to be showered upon by the divine, resulting in the oneness of body and soul. people in society at large will be able to receive the blessings of the divine.
Can you put the quote that the piece that you read initially into,
Yeah.
I don't know, Messenger or whatever, when we're...
Yeah. I'll put it on the Facebook Messenger so then we'll all have it. Yeah. So, kind of basic, but it's timeless, really.
Oh, I'm reading Ethics for a New Millennium by, the Dalai Lama, and the whole focus on, happiness on one side and suffering on the other. And that's another piece that I don't know how I came into it, intuitively, whatever. That was my whole focus when I was recovering from depression, was, at first it was all, how do I get rid of this suffering? And then it became, okay, well, that's kind of served its purpose, but now what do I put in its place? And so, and that, which is where I started to focus on happiness. But really that kind of dichotomy between the two. And then it's not just me, it's like it has to be, a universal thing. It can't just be, well, it's, focus on my happiness, because my happiness is interdependent with, everybody else's.
Wow, that is exactly the schematic that I downloaded like a day or so ago.
Oh, really?
Going from just like the fearful trying to avoid suffering up to actually seeking something positive but for yourself. And then above that to service, to doing something like I want to be useful kind of thing. And then beyond that to just where your joy and the service of the world, it's all one and the same and natural and flowing. And that's just there. Yeah. So good job. Got the same download.
That's interesting. Somewhere out there in the universal library.
Right. That's what it seemed like. Yep. I'm sure I'm not the first person to think of it, and I don't know why I wasn't really asking for something like that, but it just came to me like in these visual levels. Like you can be down here and then you kind of go up here. And,
yeah.
It's through reading this book too, but anyway.
Cool.
So I don't know. We sort of did a little bit of a check-in, kind of in a roundabout way, but
yeah.
You want to do more or kind of dive into stuff, or what's everybody's time frame?
Do you need to check in anymore, Nancy, or?
My time frame is to 4:30 is when I have another client. So I don't know if with you starting early, if you wanted to do something different, but.
Doesn't really matter to me. I've
got to check out at 1.
Okay.
My afternoon is kind of crazy. I've got an interview I'm doing at 4:30 and stuff in between.
Oh, cool. What's the interview?
I'm interviewing someone named Jennifer Dunham, and she does similar work to what I do. Her focus is on time, money, and happiness. And she's launching a program or running a program in California where she lives. Anyway, so that's what it's about.
And you're interviewing her, and what will you do with the interview once you've conducted it?
I don't know what you want. Just get it. Oh, yeah. Sorry, my son is getting something from me. So, what will I do with it? I'll post it in my group, and I'm also thinking I'll post it on YouTube.
Sounds good.
I'm realizing just how much I need to build more of a system for that kind of thing. But
yeah,
it's evolving.
It is. Thank you for saying that, because
yeah, it's developing organically. The more you work on things, the more it's like contributing to the big picture.
And it's interesting how people, because like she came to me and was like, I responded to something on her one of her posts, and she's like, "Let's talk." And so one thing led to another, and this is where we're at the moment. And then last week, someone came to me and said, "I really want you to be my mentor for Toastmasters."
Oh, wow.
Good.
And she's not even in my club, so it was like, it was just kind of different. So we met yesterday at all places at the zoo. And just sat and talked for like an hour and a half. But yeah, things are coming.
Yeah.
I feel that way with kind of the process of receiving these psychic downloads about the Comfort Her quilt. This whole way that this project is unfolding, it feels like it's loosening something around people are using my book more, and my coaching clients are working with the book material. And I had such a I've got, like Miche was talking about, even the couple minutes that I had the pleasure of seeing her today, it's like she's talking about having a product and creating this and marketing it. And I created the book and then did nothing with it, really. I published it. I was doing the radio show to try and promote, and then I stopped doing that. And now I'm really doing my counseling and some coaching, but not very much. And all of a sudden I'm having other opportunities to, work with people with the book. And it just feels like it's the energy of allowing rather than making something happen. It shifted a little bit in me.
Yeah. That's a good point. Because we get so caught up in this whole, we've got to make things happen. We got to hustle and be visible and blah, 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 blah. Which, may or may not be true. But, I think there's a whole part of allowing, it was, again, going back to that interview with Bill Gates, it was a shock to him that he was a billionaire. I mean, he wasn't even thinking about it. It was not his intent. It wasn't, I want to be a billionaire and blah, blah, blah. It was, I just really want to create really cool software, and because he focused on that and, and was wise in how he put it together, he became a billionaire at 30. I mean, and again, it's not about the money. It's just, how do you create prosperity, whatever that looks like for you, And
right.
Just about every marketer, every marketing coach out there is so focused on, the short term and, let's get the sales and blah, 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 instead of, I don't hear much about allowing. It's not about creating something. It's about, how do I make more noise so that more people hear me and, whatever. Which isn't necessarily bad. It's just a totally different focus.
Well, and one of the reasons why I was asking you about what you might do with the interview is, I don't miss being part of the Amazing Women of Power network, because I don't miss doing interviews every week. But I never did anything with the interview with now I even forgot her name. I
remember the
shaman and the artist. I remember his name, but
was that Lynn Andrews?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I still have that on my computer. I edited the interviews, but I never posted them on YouTube. I never, put it up on my Facebook page. My website isn't working. I just feel like I've let these balls drop, and it feels great. I don't really feel very worried about it. I'm not sure, even recently, I've got this kind of loose 5-year plan about becoming an expat somewhere, and it all depends on, you know, what my son might do or where he might move to, or if he marries his girlfriend, you know, all kinds of questions. But recently a client of mine was told to by her friend, who's also a realtor, to sell her house now in the city I live in Portland, Maine, because the market is cresting, you know, and she stands to make $100,000 in equity, and she has showings this Saturday. She canceled her morning appointment with me tomorrow because she's got to get things ready, and she expects the house will sell the day that it's shown. Most of the houses in her neighborhood are, if they're for sale, sell within 6 days.
Wow.
And so the realtor said, yeah, now's the time. And I was thinking about selling my own house and, you know, being able to take $100,000 in equity and my 401k that's like 75 grand and the 30,000 I have in the bank, and buying something in a, you know, third world country where I can retire now, you know, and then I thought, but I really love my home. Like, I'm really happy just doing what I'm doing here. So, you know, and I don't want to like wait and be in the wrong time and, you know, in the right place at the wrong time. But it's not clear to me that I'm moving to Mexico or Costa Rica today. So I'm not doing it today. But.
Yeah, interesting stuff. So Dawn, I want to hear what the latest is with your castle.
Yeah, speaking of trying to sell our house, well, today I've really just got the download to go back to the spreadsheet and just work with the numbers. I'm owning every line on this spreadsheet and every single number, documenting as many of them as I can with actual websites and research and stuff. I've been doing a lot of research on like the hospitality industry, and I'm discovering things like conscious traveling. So this kind of dovetails with what we were talking about, Nancy, right? People who want more of an experience than just Disney World or going somewhere and spending a bunch of money and coming home exhausted or whatever. And, so there are like wellness retreats and this whole thing about conscious traveling and, you know, all these different terms, transformational travel and stuff that I'm writing about. So that's pretty neat. I've been doing a bunch of just like skimming a whole lot of websites just to kind of really see what my market is actually, and if there is such a thing. And there is, and I don't see people doing Reiki training or Reiki focused retreats, although Reiki is popping up as a spa offering in a lot of places. So that's something that's kind of unique, especially with the combination of the historic Victorian house. A lot of those places that have wellness retreats and yoga retreats and stuff are like in Thailand or Costa Rica or in the jungle. So that's really different. And then just before our call today, I kind of got the download of like, well, what if people wanted to stay longer? What about a month long? You know, live with our family and just, you know, do a real healing long-term wellness stay and how far you can really get with your whatever, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome, or, you know, allergies or immune system stuff or chronic pain or anxiety, like stuff that I feel like it's not enough just to have a session here and a session there, even regular weekly sessions.
Yeah.
Maybe
well, especially for some of those longer term chronic conditions.
Yeah, because there are a lot of things going on there, and I'm not a medical doctor, but then it is right across from the hospital. So they can certainly have all the medical attention they might want, you know, but the idea that you can kind of loosen these different layers. So you can stay in a place that, you know, is going to serve you healthy food and you don't have to worry about it, and will adjust to your diet or if you're gluten-free or whatever. You know, to the best of our ability, we won't have a gluten-free kitchen, and there probably will be cats because otherwise there will be mice. And we don't want to do poison. So things like that. But where you can have a home and an environment totally created for you where you can just relax and not worry about anything. Because when you're at home, and I know this is especially true for women, You cannot turn off the part of your brain that knows where everyone is, what they're doing, whether they got ready on time, what they're having their lunch, you know, and it's like hard to not be doing that. So it's a combination of like receiving treatments and creating new habits. And a lot of it's just, you know, letting go of the daily stresses for that extended period of time. For some people, a weekend or a week might be enough. But I think for a couple people, like being able to go and stay for a month, which is the original Reiki clinics, people, other than the super like triage of after the earthquake, there was a lot of that. But then there was a clinic where people would go and stay until you're better, you know. And I don't know how expensive it was. I mean, it was a whole different cultural and financial situation. But you're going to have different markets for different people. You know, some people can only afford $50 for their Reiki training, and other people can easily drop 20,000 and just like get what they want for the week or the month or whatever. So it's just a different market. That's how I look at it. The right people for the right offering at the right price. You know, it's just the combination. So
that was the other thing that was hilarious about Bill Gates is that they did this little Price is Right type thing, and he was supposed to guess what the prices of these things, you know, these household type things, and he was so clueless, and
he had no idea, right? But that was funny. Like, how do you actually go to the store and buy a pack of AA batteries or something? He probably has no idea. Right. I know, right?
Ellen asked him, when was the last time you were in the grocery store? And he's like,
Decade. Yeah, right. So I've been doing a lot of that research, and today I just woke up with the inspiration just to go back to the income and expense spreadsheet and just like get super into all the numbers. And so I've been doing that all day, and it's been great. It's the day, you know. Yesterday I woke up with the download to just like catch up on a lot of other things. I ordered underwear for my mother from the Vermont Country Store online. You know, I ordered birthday presents for Phil, and, you know, like catching up with stuff in my real life right now. So I'm like trying to balance these two things. And today I said, I got to use that early morning brain energy when I'm awake and I have time and I'm here by myself. I got to do that for the numbers today. Because a couple times I've looked at that spreadsheet in the afternoon and I'm just like, I don't even know what I'm seeing, you know. So today was the day I took that early morning energy to just do that, and it's great. It works out very well, I think, and you know, and a lot of detail, and I mean, a lot of it's just placeholders. I don't know. I just go on the, like, you know, Bloomingdale's site and go, what's a 5-piece, you know, place setting of what, you know, Lenox China for 24 people, you know, whatever. I am not doing a lot of like shopping around or comparing prices or anything like that. It's like, just give me a number and a website that I can document it. So I did a bunch of that. I spent some time shopping on the Anakini website, the luxury linen company I used to work for, which I really love doing. And going for their lower end, you know, stuff, which is like way more than anyone would normally pay for sheets or bedding or anything like that. Knowing that what I will eventually do is go to their company store in Woodstock, Vermont, and see what they've got on sale. And then I will talk to the owner, who I'm still in touch with. Even though he fired me, that was okay. We're good. I just don't need to work for her. And actually, in one of my volunteer capacities as a helper in the community, I encountered her and a family member since then, and she was like, "Oh, you're a saint." So we're good. So I'll talk to her, and, you know, being a hospitality company, she'll help us get a good deal and help us pick out like what goes with what and what you need for hospitality. I mean, they do giant hotels, so it's not going to be that. It's really, really more like a home, and I'm getting that feeling. And for the marketing and everything too, it's like, this is our home. You're coming into our home. There's not a hotel full of 100 or 1,000 people that you have to feel like you're in competition for how did they put on their makeup when they went to the pool. And I know a lot of people like that. You know, you're just not going to have that at my place, you know. So I'm getting the idea too how important it's going to be to hire a really good marketing person who really, really gets what we're doing. Because I am not going to make this website, and I am not going to write all the copy, even though I can make a website and I can write copy. It's not, you know, I need someone who really is really going to be able to do it, you know, well, the right time and the first time, and really get what is unique, you know, all the way deeply. So maybe I'll find out some of that from my friend. So I was planning on meeting her tomorrow to talk about business, but her dog is in her final days and or hours. So I may just go over and hold Reiki hospice dog space for her. So it's probably not going to be the productive business conversation we were hoping for, but that still is, you know, my best connections. And she's the one that gave me the phrase conscious traveler or conscious travel, something that, and it just, my research just went from there. It was perfect. It was really, really helpful that this is an emerging thing.
What's the time frame, Dawn? Like, is the house on the market now?
My house is not, no. So this is a little bit of
The castle, I meant.
Oh yeah. It's been on the market for 2 years. It's come down in price from like $1 million to $399,000. So the family lives there. They're looking for something else, but they're not like in a super hurry, like they have to do it. I feel like that's one of the things I'm trying to discern is our time frame too, because there are things that need to be done on our house, like painting and replacing doors and windows, upgrades and stuff. They need to be done now while the weather is good.
So the family's living there right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, the couple is there. Their kids are grown and gone.
So I'm wondering if there's an opportunity for owner financing.
Or for first refusal, so you don't get it scooped up underneath you.
That's an idea. That's a good thought. Thank you. I hadn't really thought of it in those terms, but the SBDC guy that I've been working with, who went on vacation right after I met him and won't be back till next week, so that was kind of interesting. But that just told me it's time to do my homework, and I don't need him for a little while. I got plenty of homework to do, but he said too that if we made an offer and they could accept it with the contingencies of us selling our house and us getting the financing that we're looking for. So they would basically take it. It would be like that, like taking it off the market, you know, expecting that this is going to happen and knowing that we're waiting for these things. So I don't know how long it might take them to find another place. I don't know how hard they're looking. I don't know what their time frame is. It's kind of like up here, things are kind of dependent on the weather. I mean, it's not like you can't get across the mountain pass to the next town, but it's less fun to unload a moving truck in, you know, November or February than it is in September or October. But so I'm not really sure. And that's one of the little unsettling things that I'm kind of dealing with is like, are we in a hurry, or do we kind of try to, you know, need to try to make this work for another several months or a year, or like what, you know, how much lead time do you need to advertise for starting this business?
If they're living there now, is you can sell a property and have the former owners live in it for a period of time?
Yeah, they could rent it from us, right? So
or not even rent it from you, but have it be part of the contract that they get to. I mean, I've even heard or seen movies where people lived out their lives.
Oh, I know what you mean, right? Yeah, I hope they don't do that. They're not that old. But you know what? If it's contingent on us selling our house, then we're going to need to move somewhere.
Right.
You know, and it's like the house is probably big enough for us to all live in, but that's not the idea. Like we want to get the business going, you know, the hospitality business. And I need to get a hold of my son too, because I really would like for him and his girlfriend to come there and do that with us, at least for a while. And I haven't really heard back whether they're seriously contemplating that or not. I think it would be great for them, great for us, and for everybody. But I don't know, trying to get a hold of them. So I know Mercury just went direct, and it was hard to get a hold of people, and everything will unfold in its time. And so meanwhile, I'll just get on with my homework. And I was hoping my sister would do the furnishings estimates for me, because she has this interior decorating certificate that she went to school for. And she was like, oh yeah, I have that. And then I haven't heard from her since I sent this shopping list. So like, all right, I guess I'll do that. So yeah, it's been a lot of like not hearing from people. And then the director of the nonprofit thing I started, she's been on vacation. So it's like, all right, I just have homework. You know, Steve, you're talking about the connecting thing. I'm trying to reach out to people, and like people are way out there. I'm like, come into my world. Like, what? Okay, all right, I get it, you know.
So I'm curious, Dawn, this is with the homework you've got and with what the SBDC guy gave you,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like from what you've said that the focus entirely is on the income statement.
As opposed to what? What do you mean the focus?
Well, I mean, it's like, what's the income, what's the expenses, et cetera, right?
Well, that's what when you say the focus, like that's what we need to take to the bank. Right?
Yeah, and yes and no. I mean, honestly, what you're taking to the bank is the mortgage, which is actually a balance sheet item.
The mortgage and the startup expenses, because we're going to.
Well, expenses is income statement.
And that doesn't have anything to do with the bank.
What do you mean?
Yeah. I mean, what you're looking at as far as a balance sheet is you're looking at what's your cash available or your accounts receivable or whatever, and then your mortgage, which is like your long-term debt. And I mean, it seems like everybody, except for companies that are actually like really viable, focus on the income statement, which is so short-term. Anyway, it's just one of the things that I'm struggling with. Like, how do I talk to people about like really building prosperity when all they want to talk about is income statement?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, yeah, that's part of it. But I mean, if you really want to build a business that's going to last, and I don't mean just like, make it to next month. I mean, for 10, 20 years, you've got to focus on the balance sheet. And nobody freaking focuses on it. And it drives me.
Help me understand what you're saying. The income sheet and the balance sheet, is that what you're talking about?
Right. Which, I mean, it's a totally different, and that's what I'm running into is like people just don't have, because everybody talks about the income statement and sales and revenue and maybe expenses. And it's amazing to me how few people actually talk about expenses. That's like one whole, but that isn't honestly an income statement. And part of it, again, one of the things I always run into is I know so much that most people don't know, and how the heck do I talk in a way that people who don't know what the heck I'm talking about understand it, and it's so frustrating.
Why is it? Like sometimes I run into trouble taking things literally. Like a debit can mean either something coming to you or something going out of your bank account. And it's the same word. Why would you have the same word for the opposite transaction? I don't understand this. So when you say income statement, but then you say it includes expenses, is that
income statement is literally the only thing that's on the income statement is your revenue, your money in, and your expenses. That's the only thing that's on your income statement.
Okay. So it's called an income statement, even though I would call it an income and expense statement.
Well, you can also call it profit and loss. I mean, it's the same thing.
Okay. So that's helping me to get these terms in this context.
And the other thing about an income statement is that it's periodic. I mean, once the month or the quarter or the year is done, that income statement has like no relevance whatsoever. I mean, whereas a balance sheet tells you, okay, this is what you've got right now, and the income statement flows into the balance sheet. So like when you have sales, right, and what you typically do is you sell from the balance sheet, meaning, if you're a manufacturer, you sell whatever product you're producing. You get cash from that, and the cash goes back to the balance sheet. Everything starts and finishes with the balance sheet.
Okay.
But like everybody just totally ignores it, and it's like, drives me.
So what would a balance sheet even look like for me right now? I'm trying to apply what you're saying because I made.
So the balance sheet would be the value of the house. So you've got, that would go like land and buildings and land, which would be
our house that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, I'm talking about the value of the castle.
Okay.
And then you'd be like, what cash do you have available to you? So like, how are you going to pay for this thing?
Yeah, we have no cash available. It's all going to be loans and whatever we can make from our house. Yeah.
Which again, that's long-term debt, and that's balance sheet.
Okay. So it's the mortgage for the castle and then a 504 like SBA program loan from the bank is what would cover the other, $500,000 in
Which would
startup.
be like notes payable, which again would go on the balance sheet.
Yeah.
Like the monthly expense, that would go on your income statement because that's a monthly expense. But you're always going to be reducing the liability that you have outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, that's where, what you need to be worried about is how do you reduce that liability? How do you increase your cash flow? How do you increase your cash on hand and your and reduce your liability so that you don't have to be struggling to pay the rent next month or the mortgage or whatever.
Well, maybe the word that I didn't use was projections, because when I the income and expense spreadsheets that I'm looking at are projections.
Well, that's all projections. Right now, until you actually do something, it's all projection.
Okay, you talked about the income statement or profit and losses being periodic, like quarterly, like that hasn't happened yet.
Right. Well, neither. You haven't bought the property either.
Right. So that would be a projected income statement.
Mm-hmm. And what they call a pro forma, but yeah.
Pro forma, is that PRO?
Yeah, 2 words.
Pro forma. See, this is really helpful because it's been a while since I looked at this language, and using it in this new context, like it's going to be helpful for me to talk to banks and people. And the crazy thing, I think I told you last week because it had already happened. That's right, because we were all losing things. So the SVDC guy sent me this business plan format before he went on vacation. And by some crazy glitch with my computer, I saw it get deleted before my eyes before I could stop it.
Oh, wow.
So maybe it's all on there in this like fill in the blank format that I'm just not seeing. But so what I have is like a pretty detailed list of what the monthly and yearly projected expenses and income will be for each program, fixed expenses, program expenses, and also startup expenses. How much of that is salary? How much of that is paid to us that we pay back to the business for living there? Like we get paid a salary and then theoretically, we pay room and board for living there. I know it could be set up different ways, but somehow that's got to come in and go out. So an accountant can advise us on whether we lease the property to the business or a business owns the property and we rent it to ourselves, whatever. So like that. So I put that all in. I'm just trying to see that the projected income from the programs that I feel confident we can provide and populate will more than cover reasonable projected expenses and then some. And so maybe you can tell me what to call that or how to.
Well, it sounds like you're using the right language. But the thing that you've got to understand is most of the stuff you're talking about is like operating expenses. So like it's the stuff that's happening right now. And so you're gonna, it'll help you to get from this month to next month. But what the bank is actually going to be concerned about is what's the value of the property and what's the mortgage outstanding, because that's what we call your working capital or your and the greater the difference is between those two things, the stronger financial position that you're in. Because your business can go, you can stop, let's say you have operating expenses looking good right now, but if those stop like next month for whatever reason, you're upside down on the balance sheet. You've got more liabilities than you've got cash available to you. If you have a strong position with your working capital, you're okay if the operating expenses don't work out next month. But if you're like always constantly battling, and you always will be to a certain extent, but long term, you want to be thinking about what's the difference between what's the value of what you've got on hand, cash, accounts receivable, property, etc., and what you have to pay for that in order to for it to last. Does that make sense?
Kind of. I mean, it's got to come from somewhere. So the thing is, besides the mortgage, is the SBA 504 program loan would cover the startup expenses, which would include, I guess, so many months of actually getting started operating the business before the projected revenue, starts coming in. So as far as I understand it, that's how it works, because we don't have assets in excess of what it is that we need to get the business started. We're taking out,
except that you have the value of the building itself. You have which is an asset. And I mean, right now if you were doing a market value, it's $399,000. I mean,
right. So that's not more than the expenses we're going to need to, borrow to
right,
get.
and that's the thing that you need to be concerned about.
Well, what do you mean concerned? So what do you do about that? I mean, so that's what the 504 loan is designed to cover, as I understand it.
But that's a liability.
The loan is.
What, Nancy?
Anyway,
The loan is a liability.
yeah, I mean, it's what you owe to somebody else. It's not. I mean, yes, you get cash in, but you got to pay that cash back out to the SBDC or the bank or whoever
Right.
the holder of the note.
Right.
And so until you're actually cash positive, meaning on the balance sheet, like what you've got available to you, you're at risk. You're at significant risk. You're highly capitalized, meaning that your debt is greater than your assets. You have no working capital. You have nothing to work with. I mean, you've got the loan, but if anything happens, you're at risk. And so the thing you always want to be concerned about is, how do you turn that around? How do you turn it around so you have more cash on hand, that you have more assets available to you than you have what creditors can come after you for?
Okay, so how do you do that? I mean,
part of it's the operating expenses and making sure that it's not so, I'm not saying that you don't want to be concerned about the income coming in, but you always want to be more concerned about what are you doing on the balance sheet as opposed to what your net profit is. Because the net profit, it should be putting you into a better position on the balance sheet. I mean, it doesn't end, and this is like really my point, is that it doesn't end at the bottom line. I mean, if you're only concerned about the bottom line, that will get you to, you can spend it on whatever. But if it doesn't put you in a better position in your working capital, meaning the difference between what you have on hand and what you owe to other people, it's extremely short. You gotta, all you're concerned about is next month. And because, it just doesn't make for a healthy business, healthy position. And you're always going to be stressed about, how do I make next month's revenue? And you're just trying to build some assurance that you're okay. The bigger the gap, the bigger the difference between what you have available to you as that you control, as opposed to what other people control, as far as, the mortgage, the 504, loan, whatever. The more that you have in your control, meaning that you have available to you, whether it's, cash in the bank or, accounts receivable or, the value of the property or whatever, the more at risk you are until you flip that around. And you're always working to make that a bigger, to be a more positive balance in your favor.
Sure. That's an ideal. And to get started, you have to take a risk, because we just don't have the cash. So we're hoping the bank takes a risk on us based on our projections and the, market positioning and all that kind of stuff. So
there's always going to be part of that. It's just,
I mean, I'm including loan payments, you know, in the expenses. It's not that you don't pay back the loan, or, you know, and this comes out with, you know, a significant amount of profit to either pay off the loan earlier or reinvest in the business, or, you know, put towards the building repairs or whatever as well. So I'm making sure that my projections are, you know, do seem very reasonable as much as can be researched, and also do leave leeway and are not like counting on the very most income and the very least expenses or anything like that. So
yeah, I mean,
What do you know about your bank?
me,
Yeah, like how friendly are they to business
yeah,
invest?
I think that, well, the one that I have in mind is the one where we have our checking account, and I have multiple checking accounts with them. I have one with my mom, and Phil and I have been there for 15 years. It's called Mascoma Savings Bank, and they have branch offices all in this area, and it's local. It's just in this area. And they're a B Corp. They're a benefit corporation. So they give a lot back to the community. They're very community minded. They're very like small town friendly. You can go in and talk with them. So I think that they would be pretty open to this. So this thing is that I really wanted my numbers to be very tight before I even talk to them, which I need to do soon, and say, I'm looking at this 504 SBA program situation, and, you know, let's start having that conversation. What does this look like to you? So, so that's what I'm looking at.
so some of the things you can do to mitigate your risk position is finding people who can support you, you know, as investors. Because the more people you have supporting you, the stronger that your position is going to be. Although you've got the obligations to them, but
well, I thought not only investors, but to be able to do something kind of like pre-sales or pledges even. So without even people needing to just take the risk of investment, to kind of, you know, propose a portfolio, or what's the word, like a prospectus, you know, of like, these are our actual offerings. You know, if this, you know, would you pledge that you will sign up for a weekend or a week or this or that, you know? So
yeah, I mean,
that looks really good. I want to get on the waiting list kind of thing. And then you would have almost a guarantee, not cash in the bank, but almost a guarantee of actual cash flow. So that's a thought too. And then I'm wondering how do you do that? How do you kind of market something that's not, you know, that's still kind of potential?
yeah, well, that's honestly kind of more accounts receivable, which is, I mean, I don't know if it's technically accounts receivable, but that would be more on your balance sheet. As long as you've got promises, I mean, there's like stuff that's strictly on the balance sheet, and then there's like stuff that's more like your brand or your reputation that isn't technically on your balance sheet, even though it behaves like a balance sheet item.
Yeah, it's an asset in the sense that, you know, I need to be able to go to the bank and say there is such a thing as, you know, transformational travel, and this is my market, and I know that that's a real thing. So that doesn't have a number on the balance sheet, but it's just as important.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. If I just made up something totally new and no one ever heard of it all before, there would be no reason for them to know that that's going to be successful. But if I can point to these, you know, papers that people have written in marketing that are saying people are looking for more meaningful experiences and, you know, wellness retreats and stuff like that. So that's a lot of the research that I've been doing. And yeah, so that there's like, I kind of know what our strong points and our weak points are. And the idea is everyone's going to have strong points and weak points. And even if you won the lottery, you couldn't necessarily prove that you're going to be successful in business just because you have money to start with, you know?
Right.
So it's not even like that. It's like, so I need to get, you know, busy teaching classes so I can show that I'm teaching and I have happy students, even though they're not at the market point that my future students would be at. You know, but things like that. I mean, I have, you know, clients who can say, yes, I've gone to this person and it was Reiki and it was great.
Yeah, I mean, again,
but I don't have a lot. You know, I can't show that I'm almost there in this business and I'm making a huge profit or anything. I'm really not.
Right. But I mean, that's what you want to be working towards. I mean, that's what kind of my point is that you always want to be working towards that healthy position where your risk is much lower than what what you have available to you.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the goal, but for us starting out where we are, we have to start with a fair amount of risk.
Whether it's, I mean, that's almost a given.
Yeah.
But how do you mitigate it? I mean, instead of just thinking about, what are my projected, income and expenses, how do I put myself into a better position so that I have, more available to me, not just next month, but next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now? How do you always get to be in a better position than you are right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that, the programs have kind of a natural sales funnel or spiral or whatever we want to call it. Like someone comes to stay for the bed and breakfast, and then they realize that we have the Chandler Arts program, and next time they can come for the weekend and have tickets to see Natalie Master. And then after that, they really enjoyed the Reiki, so they come back for a wellness weekend, and then maybe they want to get trained in Reiki, and then maybe, whatever. So it kind of goes from there. So I feel like once it started, people will want to come back. They will want to tell their friends. And then, of course, once you have testimonials where people can say this was hugely transformative for me, then other people, and once we have something to promote, so we're kind of back to that like product promotion,
right?
Circular thing, chicken or egg thing. That there's the Vermont Tourism Board. They love to promote, local. I found something called Select Register that promotes B&Bs that have this really high level, like we're way even above their criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people might have to share bathrooms, but they're really nice bathrooms. But so things like that. So there are definitely ways to promote what we're doing, whether it's in the wellness community, in the hospitality community, especially with the Vermont brand, hugely. With Vermont. There are all these groups in Vermont and stuff that can help promote. So it's just a little hard to do when you don't have the thing yet, but I'm talking to some people who are helping with that. So.
And you can always be building relationships, even if it's just, something that, this is what we're working on,
Right.
and because relationships are built more on psychology than they are on, there's always a kind of financial aspect of it,
but a lot of it is trust, and a lot of it is comfort, and a lot of it is care, and a lot of it is that the energy that I can create for people, and that's literally my business. So back to what you were saying in the beginning about not just worrying about sales. For me, I need to shift more towards the numbers because it's so much easier for me to, just to be there creating the space and the environment and the experience. So remembering to get to that numbers place is me. Somebody else that might be getting away from the numbers to the
wonder, so. Yeah.
Like that little gray.
Both are important.
Yeah, bring it all to me.
They really do go together.
I'm bringing the gray circle down.
Yeah, it all flows together. They're not like independent things. They're all documents or forms or whatever.
Well, they're all experiences, and ultimately, even if numbers, add up or whatever, it actually comes down to the human factor of someone saying yes, someone agreeing to have a partnership with you, like you say, the relationship. Without relationship, there isn't any business, no matter what the numbers are. So, I've already been doing that. I found someone named Darlene at Select Register that I've been corresponding with. I found someone named Darlene at Woodstock Insurance Company that I actually got a real quote. So, I've been corresponding with the Vermont Inn and Bed and Breakfast Association and the Association of Independent, Independent Lodgings or Independent Hospitality Professionals. That's what it is, AIHP. So, yeah, that's one of my tentacles is always going out in that direction. Who can I connect with? And
yeah, that's great.
It's easy for me to call up and say, hey, I'm new in the area and I want to do this. And I know that your organization wants to help me because that's what you're there for and that's what you love to do. Like, I just have that in my mind when I call someone.
Mm-hmm.
And usually it goes very well, or email them. So, yeah, that's helpful. So, it's different every day, but I'm trying to juggle a lot. So,
would you bring me the rest of it?
So I appreciate any suggestions because I definitely know there are pieces I'm missing and weak points and, I'll put it all together.
I don't know about weak points. You amaze me at, how much you're doing and considering and movement.
Well, thanks. I guess my weak points are that I don't have like a really busy, big, full-time, thriving, very profitable business right now that I can point to and say, look, I'm going to level up.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I
But
do
you're doing
have.
the foundation. I mean, you're doing the groundwork for that, and the more that you can do of that, and like the more that you can make it real, instead of just, I mean, there's always kind of the projected, the planning part of it, but the more that you can build those relationships, the more you can, get really clear on what your systems and processes are, in order to, so that it's not just, pie in the sky, numbers on a sheet, but that there's actually, things behind it, activities behind it, systems behind it, that, when someone comes in, that you know exactly what's going to happen, and the more that you can control that expectation, that's really what you're going for is, how do you create, and I think what you said was, healing hospitality, the more you can create that and create the demand for it, it isn't going to go on a balance sheet or even an income statement as such, but that's really what your strength is, and
Well,
that's
that's
what
like your. That, Steve, what was it? The creativity balance sheet or something? Like,
yeah, the emotional balance sheet.
yeah. So that's that part where it's like maybe you can't give it a number, but the value of being able to be patient with someone or being friendly with someone or being non-judgmental or,
Yeah.
like I know that it feels like the strategy is to invite people in with something they're familiar with, like they know what a bed and breakfast is. They might not have it. They might have an idea of what a wellness retreat is, but when they get there and they experience it, it's going to be so much more than they realized, and it's going to want to lead them on to the next thing.
Right. And how do you? I mean, there are ways actually to start creating that now. I mean, if you had a blog about it, or if you had, something that gives you that,
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
people have a feel for who you are, and maybe some videos of the town, or take people on a tour of, I don't remember the name of the town, but
Randolph. Yeah.
Randolph, just so that even though it doesn't go down technically as a balance sheet item, it creates that experience for people such that that it improves the demand, and helps you to be in a better position, and them honestly to be in a better position to to make a decision that this is what they want to do.
Yeah, I'm not ready to let the cat out of the bag yet, though. I've only told a few people because I don't want it to become a public thing yet until it's a little more solidified. So that's the thing is I may approach a few people privately to ask for pledges, and let them know what I'm up to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, just planning it, even without talking to anybody, knowing, okay, this is what I want to do, and these are the things that I'm doing, that puts you in a stronger position by itself. Even if you don't talk to anybody, because you know what's going to happen. I mean, you when the race starts, you're ready to run the race. I mean,
It's interesting. The Abraham Hicks, I get a daily email from them.
Oh, do you? Interesting.
And I rarely do I read it because sometimes they're just lengthy. And anyway, I read one the other day that was about your desire story. And it said, it's not just affirming what you desire, but thinking about your desire story coming true and telling it like it's a story. And then they said, feel into the vibration of that coming true. And then they said, now kind of, I mean, this is our terms, but up level it, create more of your desire. Like if that desire is met, what's the next desire, and how does it feel when that's fulfilled? And so really seeing yourself in the castle and making those offerings, but having the interactions with the guests and feeling hospitality, write out some of the testimonials that you imagine are coming down the pike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's that kind of psychic, I don't know, balance sheet, if you will.
Vision. Right.
There you go, psychic balance sheet. I know, like, that's easy for me. I live it. I do have my moments of like, what? How can I make this happen? But for the most part, I kind of can't imagine it not happening, even though like it's so iffy still in the manifestation of it. But that's just because it's all coming together. But for my mind to think about it, it's like the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
In a way.
And that's really what you're doing is, I mean, as you do this kind of psychically, meaning, the kind of the energy or the planning or whatever, the next step is just, to make what of those elements can you make actually real, Right.
Well, and that's where, even though I may not have like a ton of clients and a ton of income right now, though, I have been out in the community doing all of these things for years. Yeah. And so that's where the non-number balance sheet, I guess, kind of comes into play. Like, I have led groups. I have, worked for both profit and nonprofit. I have done pastoral care. I've held care, sacred healing space for people in a number of different ways.
Yeah. And those things will never go down as a number on your balance sheet, but they definitely put you in a better position.
Yeah, exactly. And I haven't wanted to really put too much energy into ramping up a form that I'm not sure I'm going to stay with. And now I feel like I'm not wanting to stay with. So that's kind of the thing about only having a few clients now and doing some volunteer work and kind of getting all these foundations set. It may not look like a lot of clients and a lot of money coming in. But I really haven't. I mean, I've been moving forward rather than just quantitatively expanding each part. Yeah. I don't know if I'm saying that right, if that makes sense. But and even as it is right now, I do want to teach and have some clients, but I'm not going to put as much energy into, say, my Norwich studio getting Reiki clients if I feel like I may not keep that and I'm going to shift and really have a home base.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds like from what you've said so far about the Castle B&B, whatever, is that's more of a destination location, right? I mean, it's not just, you're not just serving the people in the local community.
Oh, absolutely. The destination is where the money will be made.
Whereas what you're doing with your current clients, that is more of a local business. Right. The models are not the same, and so they're not going to, they're not going to be the same. And so it's, how do you create the model, psychically, whatever, so that it does come to fruition. I mean, honestly, that's what I've been doing with my business. I mean, I don't talk to that many people about what I'm doing, but I am definitely doing the groundwork so that, when I do roll it out, which hopefully will be really soon, I don't have to guess as to what the heck I'm doing.
Right. Yeah.
So, anyway, I hope that was helpful and not, critical or anything.
Well, it's helpful, just, to try to understand it from the accounting point of view, because I'm just not as familiar with it. I don't mind. I think sometimes I do it and I'm not sure how to say what I'm doing, or, I have pieces of it. And it is important and it's not my favorite thing, but sometimes I can really get into it. Like today, I just couldn't wait to get started. I'm like, let me at that spreadsheet. Yeah, I could share it with you if you want to. It might be tedious for you to go through, or you might be like, you might love it. I have no idea. But it's the way that makes sense to me. It's like, if you have this many people in this program at this many nights at this rate per night, here's your monthly, here's your yearly income,
right?
This stuff, and then how much of the expenses are wages that would go to us and we live there, that kind of thing too. How much is startup and how much is overhead and
right.
So.
I mean, you can send it to me. I like the kind of the conceptual aspects of accounting. I don't really like getting into the details of it, but I mean, I definitely have I've got a pretty solid base on,
it's small potatoes for you, I'm sure, Steve.
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, I've been around it so long and so much that, I mean, this is one of the things that's happened for me is, doing the creative work and all that is really cool, and I really like the energy of it. But I didn't really start building confidence in what I was doing until I started bringing in, where it is that I already know the material like really well, you know. Um,
Well, that's the bridging thing, like the bridge to the castle. You're like bridging your two worlds, and so you're showing people, you're going to be able to help people through your own experience of that bridging. It's like, okay, I went forward, and now maybe I have to turn back and look and, see how far I've come and be
yeah,
able to.
and you're always kind of doing that. It's like, I think you always want to be looking at, and again, going back to Bill Gates, he only talked about four things. He talked about payroll, he talked about R&D, he talked about cash, and he talked about software. And these are like just things that he mentioned. It wasn't like he spent 10 minutes talking about it. But R&D is your creative activity. Cash is like the constructive activity. Payroll is your connective activity, and software is like what he's cultivating, what he's really good at. It totally lines up with the prosperity pyramid. The stronger that you are in each one of those areas, and you're again looking at the R&D, which is forward looking. I mean, when you're doing R&D, you're kind of doing what you're doing with the castle. Is I don't know exactly what this is going to look like, but I know this is kind of the direction that I want to head. And let's play around with it and see what's going on. But you're also looking at the cash position, and when he's looking at his cash position, he's not just looking at what the revenue is, but he's also looking what the expenses are. What enables me to be in a better cash position, so that, and as he said, all the people that are on my payroll, I can pay their payroll without worrying about it. Because he's got the money in the bank in order to do it, and he had a year's worth of cash on hand in order to cover whatever came up, regardless of whatever the revenue was.
Can you put that link in our message?
Yeah. Yep.
Because one of the things my son sent me a text last night about watching this TEDx talk together on creativity. But he said, if you've already seen it, Mom, I can do that on my own time if there's something else you'd rather watch together.
How cool. Like, are you doing that virtually, or how do you?
Yeah, we're doing it virtually.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You're sharing this experience of,
How do you do that? What do you mean? FaceTime, but what about the TEDx talk?
Well, that we've watched separately, but we both watched it. So, we're taking notes and then talking about it.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll put
kind
a
of
link to
a
that.
way to connect with them right now. So great. And I'm sorry. Last week I was, I know I wasn't alone, but saying, let's do the affirmations online, and I never looked back. I was like,
yeah, I didn't do anything with it. You did, though. You're the only one that did anything with it, Dawn, and
I do, and I don't remember what mine was, but I hope it was good.
I'm sure it was good.
Hope it came true. Maybe I could look it up.
I wouldn't mind going back to that page that Mitche gave us and read through it, because I feel like I've kind of lost the momentum of that.
Yeah. Have you got that, Dawn?
I do have it. Okay.
And I had finished this finished work, Steve. That's so
Yay.
cool.
Wow.
Yay.
So is it done?
Yeah, it really is. I'm trying to do a couple of edges that I don't like, just finishing them up. But
wow.
That's great.
This is what I've done, is the finish work, the binding, the backing, and this thing so you can put a rod in there to hang it up. So.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Little pocket. It's beautiful.
Nice.
That's great. All right.
Well
I've
done,
got,
Nancy. Woohoo!
yay.
Thank you.
I have the 7 steps to the mastermind connection. Is that what you?
Yeah.
Okay. I surrender ordinary thinking. I recognize and accept that I desire to add to my own inherent power the sum and substance of the intelligence, experience, knowledge, and spirituality of my mastermind partners to provide amazing ideas and affirmative language to assist me in generating new results now. I focus the power of my intention to be open to all possibilities. I dissolve in my mind and in the minds of all others any idea that my own can be withheld from me. No person, thing, or event can keep that from me, which the power of the creative mechanism of our collective minds, the mastermind, can conceive of and bring me in perfect timing. I decide differently. Within and without, I call all things past, all things present, all things future a success. I release positively everyone. I am free, and they are free too. All things are cleared up between us now and forever. I know that when 2 or more minds come together in the spirit of harmony, peace, and goodwill, and the accomplishment of my goals, dreams, and desires will be intentionally created through this alliance to bring about easy effectiveness, energy, and good to all. I ask my partner's support in seeing and believing for me what I really want. I now make known my specific goals and requests, knowing that the accumulative mastermind consciousness of this group will lift my thinking, shift my receptivity to what I've asked for, and open my mind to creative solution generating ideas and language. And then the end part is, I accept and receive all that I am aligned with. I give great appreciation to the third invisible, intangible force as it responds in the ways that are best to my desires. I assume the same feelings I will have as my goals and requests are being actualized. I dedicate myself to be of maximum service to those around me, to be a living example of what humanity can be, and to practice harmlessness in generating peace, love, harmony, and goodwill in my life. I am relaxed and grateful, and so it is. I go forth with a spirit of enthusiasm, excitement, and expectancy. I am at peace. Yes, for something greater.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks for suggesting it. I hadn't gone back to it for a while either. It's good. Good stuff. Okay.
So do we want to go through our kind of our personal affirmations here? Do you want to do that written or?
Well, it's almost 4:30 here.
Yeah,
So
I don't have any more time.
Yeah.
we can do them
My
written.
client.
Okay.
Yeah, why don't we just write them?
And I'm not sure I'll get to writing it, but if I do, I will. And I'll look at yours if you take the time to do it.
Right. I'm sure we'll see you. Give thanks for it if you do.
What was that?
I said, I'm sure we'll see, agree, and give thanks for it if we have time.
And next week I will be at the beach. I don't know whether I'll be somewhere where I can get on Zoom. If there's Wi-Fi in the privacy of my room, I'll try and get away during this time.
Okay.
But if not, know that I'm just soaking up the sun and playing with waves and quilting my little derriere off.
Yeah, that'll be great.
Sounds like fun.
It's a
have
great
good
week.
time.
Mm-hmm.
I feel so alive when I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister is getting married this weekend, so that's,
Oh, really? That's
Oh.
exciting. Wow.
How old is she, Steve?
gosh, I should know this. 72, so 46. Not her first marriage, but
72, wow.
hopefully the one that they're both really good for each other. So
Good.
and they've actually been together for, I don't know, a couple of years now.
Oh my gosh, I just saw that I have like 2 minutes left. I gotta go.
Yeah. Okay.
Blessings.
See you, Nancy.
Bye.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, so I should go too at 6 o'clock, which is an hour and a half. There's a program on retreats, actually, like a laser call thing with Darla LeDuc. So I'm going to get.
Oh, good. Cool.
So
yeah.
bit of a break
So
in between.
Thank you.
Thank you too. I appreciate all your help.
Yeah. Keep up you are like doing the foundation work, which I think is really important. So, and some way I will figure out how to make this stuff more palatable for people. But, yeah, it's just
putting it together. It is like translating from the language of creativity to the language of accounting. I think you've got something with the creative balance sheet and the psychic balance sheet, and like that language it's coming out more and more, I think.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's one of the things I noticed is that when I was talking about the financial balance sheet, it was like, lots of tension. And then we talked about the psychic balance sheet and the creative balance sheet. And that was a lot more, freeing or, good energy. So, and I think, the reason I've got the whole 4 sides of the pyramid is because I think every single one of those sides is like super important, If we just get stuck on the financial balance sheet, it doesn't tell the full picture.
Right.
And it really isn't where the energy is.
Right. I'm not in much danger of getting stuck on that.
Yeah.
But I've got to be able to go there. I'm definitely the one in the driver's seat. I own this whole project, even though, my husband is my partner and other people will be involved in everything on a responsibility level and then on a creative director sort of level, a creative manager level. I totally own every molecule of it.
Yeah. Well, that's great.
I'm just being guided and led like by grace, from point to point on this map. And I'm just kind of showing up every day and going, what do we do now?
Well, that's the thing is you are showing up and you're doing the work. There's a reason the SBDC guy was impressed with what you've done because, most people are just like, let's throw a bunch of freaking numbers that have nothing to do with anything. I'm going to take on Coca-Cola next year, as was one of the guys. Some guy gave me a business plan, and he literally was like, within 2 years, I'm going to be Coca-Cola. And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me?
Sorry.
That's funny.
I was just talking to my medicine that I use for my asthma. I hated it.
Yep. Okay.
Wow. We'll see what comes of it next week. I'm meeting with him on Thursday, but we'll meet again before that. So, I'll feel better when I have a bit of a business plan format to put it into. And it isn't because I can't find one or make one up myself, because I can do both. But if there's one that he suggests using, like, I'm happy to let somebody else invent the wheel and show me a basic, Anyway.
Well, I wonder if you search because like I said, SBA has got tons of like different business plans. At least when I was looking at it,
there's tons. So I don't really want to get started too much with one if there's going to be another one that's better. So, but I just like to get to that sort of putting the quilt pieces together, and that's kind of what the income and expense spreadsheet is for me too. It's like, what are the pieces that I do know and that I don't know? Do I know how much bedding for 8 guests is going to cost? And do I know what is the program behind this income? Like you were saying, it's like all of it.
Yeah. So, and by the way, at least some of the furnishings will be balance sheet items as well. Right. I don't know if the sheets will be necessarily, because I think you're likely going to expense those, but there will. Pretty much all the furniture in the building is going to be balance sheet type stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's really a good point, because that's a startup expense, but it's also, as you say, then becomes an asset. It's not just a consumable.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm trying to think if that's true of a lot of the startup expenses that are not recurring, if they will generally become assets, whether it's like dishes, cookware.
Yep.
And bedding is kind of an in-between one, because you don't just use it once and throw it away. It can last you, I don't know, maybe a few years. We're not talking about a huge volume of traffic for like a hotel or something.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some FASB, which is the governing board of accounting here.
Yeah.
There's probably some guidance as to how to treat bedding in a B&B or a hotel hospitality setting.
Well, that's the thing. It's like it's the literal physical stuff, like the house and the furnishings, and then it's the totally intangible stuff, like the Reiki and the caring and the cooking.
Mhm.
And so it's like those two extremes, the most tangible and then the least tangible, which really doesn't, there aren't like a lot of supplies or anything, it's not like manufacturing. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, you'll have like soap and things like that, but I
yeah,
mean,
little supplies,
and the
food.
food and
Yeah.
whatever.
Mhm.
Um,
But other than that, it's mostly salaries for people, whether it's keeping up the grounds or doing the Reiki or,
yeah,
doing the marketing or whatever it is. So a huge, like about half of it really is salary and wages. And most of that would be our family, especially if I can get my son and his girlfriend on board.
mhm,
So a huge amount of that would be being paid to us and then going back into the business, like I said, is that room and board. So if that happened to be money that didn't come in through the business, it would just be money that doesn't make that mutual transaction. It wouldn't really hurt any of the.
right.
So
Yeah,
those are like other ways to look at it too, as far as the actual cash flow. And it's paying us at substantial wages. Again, I'm not trying to nickel and dime it so that if we're a little short, everything's a disaster. It's like I'm trying to leave plenty of breathing room.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. And
Yeah.
one of the things that, again, I talked about working capital, but really what the difference is between those things is your owner's equity, meaning that that's what you've got available to you. That you know that puts you in a strong position. So that's what you're working towards is building that up.
So that's yeah, I guess the other thing is that talking it's harder for me to picture the whole thing. I'm good with like a mind map, a flow chart I can look at, and all these words are familiar to me and I've seen them on a flow chart. So that part of it makes sense. And then when you talk about one thing, I might not remember where it is on the map. So if I
Okay.
look a little bit like, what, heard of that, but so that's where your visual approach is awesome. And I know that the way you work isn't necessarily like this, just talking with people.
Yeah.
But like, the assets and working capital, like, is that liquidated or is that cash flow or is that, because not everything's done by cash. You order things, you haven't paid for them yet, and all that stuff. I know it all comes out. I'm not doing that kind of spreadsheet.
So here's a picture for you. So, well, it's being dark, but like your house and so forth, that's going to be your assets. Then like the notes payable, the mortgage and that kind of thing will be your liabilities. And then the difference between those things is either your owner's equity or working capital or whatever. But that's like what you have available to you. That's the difference between, so this minus this equals this. And this is like your security here.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
It does kind of. And then the idea of turning it into a functional business increases, like you say, there's the goodwill kind of factor of it and the successful business of it. So if you can sell it as a successful B&B or wellness retreat business, that can theoretically increase the value of the whole thing beyond just it being a house.
Right. Yes.
Because you have demonstrated that, people will come to this area for this experience and it's a real business and stuff. So at some point there becomes, I guess, a valuable intangible that is, the business, the customers.
Well, absolutely. I mean, you look at
marketing that you've done,
look for the, I think it's brand equity or I don't Google or Apple or whatever, and they're like hundreds of billions of dollars. I mean, that isn't stuff that's necessarily showing up on the balance sheet. I mean, a portion of it will, but it's because, Apple is Apple. Apple has created an image in their consumer's mind that, this is what I get when I buy Apple, and even if they were to get rid of like every asset that they've got, they still have that, we're Apple,
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to create is, this is Essential Arts, and this is Essential Arts at Maury Castle. So some people will come for the wellness, and some people will come for the beautiful house to stay there. And,
Well, it's really all a package deal. I mean, ideally, you want them all to support one another, so that, it's not, I really like the idea of healthy hospitality, right? That integration, that synergy that comes from bringing those two things together is really the result that people get. It's not just a B&B. It's not just a place to stay. Right. It's not just, and I'm not diminishing or, minimizing anything. It's not just Reiki or, whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the combination of those things that, that really creates the value of, and the brand, if you will.
Yeah. It is a unique combination. And the idea I had just this afternoon before our call of actually putting an offering out there that could be like a month-long, stay and heal retreat. For one thing, I'm realizing that'll psychologically show people that if I come for the weekend retreat or the week-long retreat, that's not actually the highest end offering. So psychologically, people might look at that and go, oh, well, I can't afford, $18,000 to come for a month. But that makes the $3,000 package seem a little more doable, right? So it's one of those things.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
To put it out there, but to really, be able to communicate to people the depth of the healing that can actually take place.
Yeah. I mean,
it's profound.
Freak. I mean, just look at the expenses of going to a hospital, for the day or whatever. I mean, I remember, I mean, that's one of the things you're kind of, because you're in the wellness space, that's kind of a comparable too. It's not just, a B&B stay, so anyway, I know you've got to go and I've got to go.
Yeah, good. Well, thanks for your help. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, keep plugging away. I mean, you're doing some good stuff. So.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll have fun at the wedding this weekend.
Oh, thanks. It'll be good. All right. Ta-ta.
Okay. Bye for now.
Bye.